I don't really think about it too much because I think when you start thinking about things like that, you it starts playing things on your mind. I think when it starts getting tough, that's when I start thinking about my two boys. My two boys and my wife, and then it sort of gives me a bit of reality again and wanting to live a bit longer. So it's tough though, because for 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours, you're stuck to this machine. But I guess that's it's better than the other option, which isn't really an option. This is part and parcel of what I have to do to live. Can't change anything. I can only just hope and just do the things that I can control. And this is one thing I can sort of control.
Inside to Lomu, pass one, pass two, here he goes again, bundling them off, and the big man is over for his second try.
What can you say really with the ball in hand? He's just unstoppable, isn't he? He is unstoppable.
Sa tête, il est passé, deuxième, il arrive face à 4. Oh, il y a une marque. Oh là 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 là, la montagne au bout, la
Number 11, Jonah Lomu.
What are you doing?
You ready? Hold on. Okay, put your feet up on there. This is significant for a lot of us who are friends and close friends with Danny Sakona. This is where we lost him, and he died here. He was stabbed so many times and cut up and so forth by someone who we knew, and it made a lot of us wake up and realise, what we were doing with our life and stuff like that. And it was a waste. It was a waste to lose him. So he was so young, and also we needed to figure out what we wanted to do. We were all close together. Myself, my brother, with Danny, and there was a whole group of us that were really, really close. I guess it also gave me a decision to try and figure out what I can do for my life. But it made me me. It made me fight for what I wanted and what I needed, and to get what I want. And this place did that to me.
When you come from the streets, and you come from South Auckland, and you come from Mangere, or Otara, or Papatoe, Rewa, you name it. When you're in the streets, you deal with the streets, and you got street rules. Sometimes you get away with it, and sometimes you don't. But this is the life of that area. I think the toughest part about my childhood is that it's not a normal childhood. I was born in New Zealand, Auckland, at National Women's Hospital. From there, I spent a year here, and then basically my parents took me to Tonga, where I wasn't brought up by my parents. I was brought up by my mum's oldest sister, my auntie, which basically for 5-6 years I called her mum, and wasn't until I was about I was 6 and I came back to New Zealand that I found out who my real parents were, and who I'd been calling auntie was really my mother, and a man that I never knew. So it was a bit of an uprooting and a bit of a rude awakening and a bit of a change, a huge change in terms of where I grew up and where I, when I was a youngster, running around bare feet, didn't care whether I had a top on or not, and living off the land, to being in the concrete jungle of Auckland City, of South Auckland.
I guess it's a symbol for me more than anything else, is because I always wondered what was always over the other side of the bridge. I guess when I was really young, like when BMXing was a big thing, there would be a group of us, me and a group of my friends. We used to ride from Maungere itself and all the way out to Mission Bay and St Heliers, and that was done every weekend. It was a lot of fun. My parents always wondered where I was because I was always coming home really late and doing things that you weren't supposed to do at that age. What was it? I was 8, 9. When I used to know that I was in trouble from my parents, I used to come here and I used to sleep on this bridge.
Because our parents are working long hours, our parents weren't about most of the time because they were working to put money on the table. So you'd always get up to mischief, and when you're young, that was one of the things you get up to, go out, fight, cause trouble. I guess that's what it was like growing up in South Auckland. There wasn't really much to do. You didn't really have too much in terms of money and that, so you'd end up hopping on a bus and heading into town, or grabbing alcohol and that and causing a bit of trouble.
As you always know, when you grow up in that sort of arena, if your friends have to throw down, you go down with them, and you do that sort of thing, and you jump into it. And I was travelling down a path where, honestly, I shouldn't really be travelling down. I was hanging out with people that now are either 6 foot under the ground, or if not, they're in jail. There were days that you come home in a police car, but that's part and parcel of it. There were days that you come home and you were beaten up by somebody from getting kicked in the head and so forth. But that was part of growing up. You won all your fights, but you're going to come home bruised. Or if not, you knew you were outnumbered, so you better have some really good running shoes on. If you touch somebody from one area and they all know each other, mate, the one thing you make sure is that they don't know who you are and don't know where you live. Because, they're not shy of coming and knocking on your door and knocking you over. And the thing is, we don't do the things that like the US do. We don't do the drive-by shootings and so forth. We knock on your door and take your head off there. It's that sort of thing. It's a tough area, but proud to come from it. I think it made me battle hardened for rugby.
The ferocity of the attack in the Otara shopping mall stunned and disquieted the people of South Auckland. One man killed instantly. When
you have relatives that die violently, in ways that you cannot comprehend. You just don't know what to do. But at that time, there was a rift between in the Polynesian community, and the thing was misidentity, wrong place at the wrong time, and the thing was he ended up getting decapitated, got his head cut off, and this is not cool.
I sent Jonah to Wesley College because I think it's the best for his academic. In boarding school, I think it's best for him. Is far from some other children, not to go on the street. That's what I wish for him.
I remember I wasn't happy about going. I was 12 at the time, 12, 13 at the time.
The first time I came across Jonah was really in his mother's car. Heppy had arrived and come to see me. I live on campus, and she was concerned that Jonah's application into Wesley had not proceeded the way she'd hoped it had. So Heppy, the mother, came and asked me to go and find out from the then Deputy Principal Graham Watson, and I checked with Graham Watson, and they had some concerns about Jonah's background and so on. So I had to go back and give Heppy a little bit of a sad news that they were reluctant to enrol him. And Heppy then said, please, could you see if you can get him to come? So I went back to Graham Watson, and certainly at that stage, Graham thought we'll give him a go. And I just remember Jonah in the car with his mother, didn't get out of the car, and I remember Heppy crying with tears. And as she drove away, I looked down at the concrete step. It was a sunny, bright day, but there on the step were the evaporating tears of joy. And I just thought, I wish I had my camera. These are the tears of joy, the love of a mother for her son.
The greatest thing to ever happen to me was to go to Wesley College, purely because it saved me, to tell the truth. It really saved me. At first, I hated it, just purely because of what it stood for. I had all this freedom, and it was taken away from me. But when I sort of got into Wesley College life, you felt a sense of belonging, a sense of pride in your uniform, your clothes, and the first bell will go at 6, and basically you're up, make your bed, uniform on, and then you're out and you're doing your chores before 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock bell goes, and it's time for you to be at breakfast. And by the time you finish breakfast, it's like everybody into chapel. So it was an old military-style school.
I firmly believe that especially the Tongans, they send their children to the school because of the Christian faith. Because in the island, everybody belonged to a denomination. Until they came to New Zealand, they seemed to drift away from all of those disciplines in life. And I think they find Wesley as a place to send their boys in here.
Wesley College was an interesting time. I found it difficult because, you know, I was a troubled child when I first started. My first year, it was just, it was a living hell in the sense of, you know, you tried things on, you were doing things that you shouldn't be doing. When I realised that my parents would not be able to sustain paying that the whole time, and I got kicked out of school as well. I was very fortunate at the time that the deputy principal of the school discovered that I had a really big vertical jump.
I first noticed Jonah on the athletics field in February of his first year at school, and he was noticeable because he was winning all his races and was a standout athlete during that day.
I used to be the timekeeper, and I would stand at the 100-metre finish line ready to take the stopwatch, and there is nothing scarier than seeing this monster of a boy hurling himself at you. He had a funny sort of a lope when he ran. It was an incredible sight, and you just thought, I'm not going to get in the way of this man.
One day I went to Wesley College, and there was a young guy there who was pretty solid that he wasn't a rugby player, he was a league player. He just played league, you know. But he would spin the ball on his finger and back heel it and catch it around his shoulder, and, you know, so he was sort of trying to impress, like, look at me, but I'm not going to play rugby, I'm a leaguey.
I approached the deputy principal of the day, who was the first 15 coach, and I said, look, I know he's only going to be a year 10 student next year, but you really do need to give him a trial.
He come up and he said, oh, hey, you want to trial out for rugby? And the interesting thing about it was that my line was, man, rugby, never played it.
People say you must have spotted talent. A blind man would have spotted Jonah Lomu a talent. So there was no cleverness in that.
So he had a trial, and he made the first 15 as a lock, which is pretty unusual because most boys at 14 or 15 don't have the coordination or the strength or to actually be in the first 15.
Yeah, I made the first 15 in fourth form at the time and still now, which is still the youngest first 15 member. By the end of that, I'd had a national title my first year at first 15. I started learning about rugby and I realised I was getting better at the game. But what I didn't tell anybody else was I was playing league and I was playing outside of the school and playing inside the school. I was playing in Auckland for Mount Wellington with my cousins and so forth, and they were picking me up without the school knowing. But also at the same time, I was playing for the school. So I'll play in the morning, play in the afternoon. Well, the thing was, you did your schooling in the mornings and then you did your sport in the afternoon. The thing was, I wasn't going to this school in the morning. I was going and playing rugby in the morning. And this went on for quite a while. And it wasn't until a letter got sent to the school that I was selected for the Auckland team. And the school wrote back and said, you must have the wrong Jonah because he's at boarding school and he doesn't leave these grounds. And when they traced it back, then they realised that it was. And then my parents got called in and so forth. But it was just me. I think it was the part of me from growing up in South Auckland and the loyalty to your friends and your relatives and so forth.
Yeah. I think we got a problem, tell them evacuate. The animals escaped, they made it at the gate. And now we constantly killing and getting shots that they be missing. Illegal found and fishing and they added a vision. He never listened to the ones that told him different. Cause they the definition of the ones who never win it. They telling him you made it, he know that ain't the case. Surely there must be more, this must only be a taste. So he be going hard, oh so hard. Tell me what a universe will be with no stars. Probably like New Zealand will be without me. Trying to start your car when you ain't even got the keys. And I'm looking for a reason. Tell me why I shouldn't take the soul and run and do what other brothers couldn't. I be dropping my shoulders so nobody can bump me. Till they consider me one of the best in the country. I'm bumping.
I guess the biggest thing for me with this bridge and stuff is that this is where I get away.
just get out here and dream and think about things. But man, when I used to get angry, it was all driven at my dad more than anything else. At times he was the best dad that he could be. It was just when he drank. It's when me and him disagree. He was quite violent when he was drunk. I guess the toughest part is that, Mum was always there to protect the kids, and Dad got angry and so forth, wanted to bash us. She'll get in the way, and she'll, she get beaten up quite badly sometimes, and it's tough to take. Yeah, just built up a lot of things inside me. It was pretty scary because, I came from a religious family and so forth, and when I didn't listen to my dad and I rebelled against him, he said that, God himself will punish me and punish me badly, and that I was going against him. But that was tough to swallow. That was hard. I wasn't just physically scarred from a lot of things, but I was also, the mental games that he played spiritually, really. That was tough. I guess that was the thing. And that was one of my biggest drivers, really, to get through things, is that when I was playing, when I found it hard, I just thought of my father. And that got me through it. That anger got me through it. Spent most of my life, fighting with that. Fighting with that inside me. And it's taken a long time. Taken a real long time to be able to come to terms with what my dad was. And I took it out on other people, I took it out on other things. And that's what, I guess that was one of the biggest and hardest things to deal with. So, I had to rebuild that bridge, and me and Dad, we're in speaking terms, and we're good. And a lot of it was that having the two boys has really changed things, really, more than anything else. Changed it because it's, I want my sons to know their grandfather before he leaves this planet, and whatever the issues are between me and my dad shouldn't be issues for my two sons.
First time I met Jonah was at Wesley College. They had a sevens team, and they asked me, I was playing for New Zealand Sevens, they asked me to come out and take a training. And that's where I first met him, 6'5", big guy, he could run really fast. And everything about him was big, the big legs and the big arms, and big nostrils. Yeah, he was a big man.
I started at 89, 90 kilos when I first made the first 15. And at the end of that year, I was 102, 103. So I grew with the team. And by the time I left school, I was about 117, 116, somewhere in there. So, I just kept growing with it and kept training. And it was just that. I was just wanting to learn.
The time that we got closest together was when he was in County's rep team, living in Mangere, and we had to travel over to the North Harbour, which was about a 40-minute drive. And he couldn't stay over there billeted. For some reason, he had to stay at home. So I picked him up every day and drove him to the North Shore. Now, in those days, I had an old Japanese imported car that once I went over 90 Ks, it would go ting, 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 ting. Well, he thought this was hilarious, this car that went ting, ting, ting. And I would have my sort of music on, or talkback radio. As soon as he jumped in the car, without even saying good morning, good afternoon, whatever, he'd put his tape on, and we'd have boot, 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 music that I absolutely hate. Boot, boot, boot. I say, son, have we got to have this on? Yeah. It just gets me in the mood, just, boot, boot, boot. I said, fair enough. If we have this music on the way to the game, you've got to have my music on the way home. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. So we go to the game, he'd play, he'd be outstanding as always, and when he was ready to go, we'd come home and he'd jump in the car again and do the boot, boot, boot. I'd take the tape out and put on Elvis Presley, Return to Sender, and rather than him being disappointed and down about it, he started to like Elvis, I think that we found that we had the very similar sense of humour. A Welshman from the other side of the world and this young Tongan boy from New Zealand, and we just shared a love of music, and we seemed to hit it off from there.
As I keep saying to a lot of people, he was a gentle giant. When he was hit hard by anybody, he smiled back, but he will give it back, twice. And he loves the physicality of the game, and one of the things that he never back off, from any physical situations where he have to face the opposition.
It was like my schooling ground in preparing me for after leaving school. But I always thought that I was going to go back to rugby league, purely because I thought, well, at the time, that was the only professional sport. Rugby wasn't professional, so that was the only way I was going to be able to support myself and so forth.
And I'm trying to follow Jonah right through from his first year in the first 15 right through to his final year when I coach him in the first 15. And when he left school, I make sure he didn't go to league because I want him to be the first Tongan All Black as far as I'm concerned. And I make sure that he's exposed to the top level of rugby straight from school, and counties have offered that.
And when it came to him leaving school, every province in New Zealand was chasing after Jonah Lomu. And he came to Amanaki Palavi, his Tongan teacher, brought him to see me. He said, Phil, he wants to talk to you. And we sat down and we talked about what he wanted to do. And I said, you need a career, not a job. A job driving a tractor. We had lost one of our county's players to Auckland, who they took down there and gave a job cutting grass. I wanted Jonah to have a career. There was no professional rugby. So we talked about it. I had a phone call that night and he said, Phil, I'm going to stay in counties with you. Well, it was like winning lotto. For him, for Jonah Lomu to stay in counties with us, and we were just winning the second division championship, it was immense.
Jonah, when he came first into my world at counties, he had just left school. And he came to our first training, incredibly keen, 19 years old, strapping young man. And all we basically did was try and give him some things that he could work within the sevens concept. Bob Lendrum was coaching the county sevens. He was a great sevens man, All Black as well. And we had a very good county sevens side.
Myself and my fellow selector, Earl Curtin, were watching the National Sevens tournament in 1994, and Jonah had just come out of school and he was playing in the county's sevens team and was making a real serious impact on the sevens. Lots of pace, lots of power and the ability to beat people, and very good ball skills.
When we went to the sevens, we basically told him that we're going to give him the ball. Sevens, there's heaps of room, and he was going to go out there and express himself, and he did at will. He ran around, ran through, ran over everybody that he came across, and in 94 counties won the sevens, and I can honestly say most probably 70% of the reason we won was because of Jonah.
I sort of knew that in Palmerston North when I selected him for my side for the first time to make the New Zealand team. It was just a matter of time before Jonah would go on to bigger and brighter things, and that's to be an All Black, and that certainly happened. I mean, in Hong Kong in 94, it launched his career, really.
arrived there and I remember looking up and I was going, far out, I'm in Hong Kong. Yeah, fantastic city, stays alive all night long. I'm about to play for my country. Eric Rushy was our captain at the time. We arrived at the grounds and we started looking at things and you could feel the atmosphere. It's what really drove me to want to be an All Black after playing that tournament.
When you've got someone like Jonah Lomu in your team, the important thing is, particularly around set piece, you want to give him the ball. You don't want to take the ball away from him. And because in the game of sevens, it allows you to express yourself. And by jingoes, did Jonah express himself in the game of sevens.
So New Zealand using Seymour, Lomu and Rush as their forwards.
Le plus marrant, c'est vrai que je joue face à lui. Il jouait pilier et moi je jouais talonneur. Et on voit ce colosse, donc 2 mètres, je sais pas, 120 kilos, et qui était déjà le Lomu qu'on a vu un peu plus tard avec les Blacks, à traverser le terrain tout seul, les cannes, le raffut, le cadrage des bords, la puissance, enfin déjà un extraterrestre.
I remember he made his debut in the Hong Kong Sevens, and I have an elder brother called Graham who lives in Australia. He comes on the phone to me, he says, "You will not believe this kid called Lomu. He is fantastic."
There were some young boys, all very fast players, but none were as quick as him.
In 15s, I can run and hide. You know, I can run behind 14 guys, they can defend. When I see John, I run away. I don't want to stay on that side. But in sevens, you have to be somewhere. You'll meet Jonah, definitely. Whether you cannot run away. Whether you run away, it's got to be 5. 6, you are in front. That's what I did. I was trying to run away from Jonah. In the end, I have to tackle him once. I was like closing my eyes and he hit me like I flew from Australia to New Zealand. It was really difficult to play with him in sevens.
Fiji are out. Australia and New Zealand are in.
Well, the impression started well before the final. It was pretty much a single man demolition job. He was just toying. It was like boys playing men when they were actually defending him. He was able to drag at least 2 to sometimes 3 defenders to make a tackle on him. And he'd either sometimes break those tackles or he'd be able to get his hands free because he has very good ball skills for sevens and he'd get an offload. He was unstoppable. So trying to tackle him one-on-one was very, very difficult. And plus, he ran like the wind and very, very agile for a big man. So he was like the incredible package.
He went to Hong Kong, come back and he said to me, Laurie Main have approached me to play on the wing. And I said, and he said, I don't know much about playing on the wing. I said, no, this is you've got people that you can ring. I'll ring people that, to give you advice how to play on the wing.
He came in 1994 and clearly struggled a little bit positionally.
I was a little surprised that he went to the All Blacks so early because remembering in the 15s game, he was a number 8. In the 7s game, you can play in any position for someone like Jonah. So it's easier to make that transformation into a winger at that age. In the game of 15s at the international level, and when you're playing the French, you're playing against some of the best backlines in the world, he got exposed.
Here come the All Blacks, led out by the captain, Sean Fitzpatrick, and Philippe Saint-André leads out the French team. Jonah Lomu, the youngest All Black ever, 19 years and 45 days old.
And then you had to question, was it too early? And I personally think perhaps it was a year too early. But because he made a complete change from a number 8 into an international winger, and it's pretty difficult to make that change in such a short space of time.
Which is the first time ever that we've lost to France and New Zealand a series. And unfortunately, Jonah was playing against some of the best wingers in world rugby. And for a player that was starting out his career, it was a very difficult initiation, but one that was going to prove to be very beneficial going forward.
C'était la première fois qu'on découvrait un joueur atypique, vraiment un deuxième ligne, voire une troisième ligne qui jouait 3 carrés, mais qui était puissant, qui était vite, qui était capable de te faire un cadrage débordement, qui était capable de te rentrer dedans, donc tu n'étais jamais sûr de rien, mais qui avait quelques lacunes aussi en défense. Qui n'arrivait pas toujours à se placer, qui avait un problème de disponibilité, donc de replacement, notamment sur les ballons en profondeur. Et finalement, on s'est focalisé un petit peu sur lui.
J'ai parlé un peu à Philippe Sella, je lui ai dit écoute, tu vas te servir un peu plus de moi, parce que le phénomène quand même il est pas évident à prendre. Et je pense qu'on a essayé justement de le raisonner plus en matière collective, défensivement.
Look, you remember, you put yourself in the same shoe. 18 years old, playing against France. You know, seriously, that's like, you know, and I think it was a year before, he was out of school. Schoolboy. There's not even a blended, like, you know, schoolboy, then under 21s, and then you get a trial. Oh, you missed out this year. No, what you do, chuck them straight in there. So that's why you have to put things in perspective.
There it is again, Gonzalez. Delo. Blasi. Intabak. Lower command. Delo. What a superb movement. What a try. One of the all-time great tries.
Quand vous commencez une carrière internationale par une énorme déception, il vaut mieux que ça arrive très jeune. Vous en tirez des enseignements exceptionnels et donc à travers ça, vous basez votre travail pour le futur.
They just dropped him straight away, and it really hurt him. Rejection was not a good thing, and not a thing that Jonah took kindly to, and he felt betrayed a little bit, and he didn't blame that he was dropped. He knew that he hadn't played very well, but it showed him straight away that there's no favours. If you don't do the job, you're gone.
There was a time there when he wanted to go to rugby league because he thought that the All Black selectors didn't want him to be in the All Blacks.
He never said much to me, but he turned this day and said to me, I'm going to go to the Sydney Bulldogs. I've had an offer on the table to go to the Sydney Bulldogs for 3 years.
I tried to explain that rugby was not about the coaches, it was about the guys you play with. So just play with the boys, don't worry about the rest.
Before the 95 World Cup, this is one of the places where I had to come and run to get fit, to be able to do the things that I needed to do to get into the All Black team. And there was a lot of blood, a lot of swearing and a lot of sweat that was shed here and a lot of tears, but that's part and parcel of what we had to do.
At the beginning of 95, we had a series of camps for All Black contenders. Brian Lahore, Colin Meads and myself met with Jonah and said that if we were selecting the All Black team tomorrow, we wouldn't be able to select him due to his level of fitness.
We trained really hard in 95. We trained harder than anyone, and probably the person that found it hardest and probably wanted to do as well as anyone was Jonah Lomu.
There were 20 150-metre runs in this at hot as hell Taupo, and we had to do them repetitively. They were awfully hard to do, particularly for aerobic capacity. Jonah ended up, of the 20 we were doing, he was suddenly 18 on 18 after everybody had finished at 20. He was wheezing like nothing on earth. His wheeze was going, and all I could hear, I was halfway down the pitch, I could hear this incredible scream. And he was running with Rushy. Rushy was the only one running with him because everyone else had finished. And Rushy was telling him that if he stopped, he'd kill him. He had to keep on running. It was those bloody white men down the other end waiting for him to give up. And all they wanted was for him to give up so they could drop him. And he's cutting him and goading him like nothing on earth. And the language was even worse than that. He was calling him a big black whatever it was, and only Rushy could get away with it.
Then Laurie said to Rushy, do you want to do another one? And Rushy said, yes. Right, he said, we'll do another one. If he'd have said no, he'd have said, oh, you don't, so we'll do another one. So he couldn't win.
Yeah, it was all thanks to the trainers and all my friends, kicking me up the backside and, come on, Jonah. Getting me to run.
He comes back for 19 and the team are all lining up on the goal line watching him. No one said a word while he ran. It was absolutely deathly silenced by the wheeze of Jonah fighting for breath. And then they decided he was trying so hard, which was wonderful. Fitzy, captain, took off after him. Zinzan Brook then went. Then Rob Brook went. And then someone said, well, I don't want to be the last one standing here on the line. He said, we might as well all go. So the whole team went with Jonah on this last run, encouraging him to keep on going. They wouldn't let him stop, but they were there to help him to get to the other end.
Now that is just an indication of what the All Black family is. They wanted him in the All Blacks, so they knew for us to select him, they had to get him fitter, and they did their bit to achieve that.
And Mains and I stuck out a hand. He said, we've made it. They've accepted him. He's going to be it.
Now, at the end of those camps, he still wasn't fit enough, and we allowed him to be selected for the New Zealand Sevens. And when no other All Blacks had been selected, he thought that meant the end of the line for him.
The media all said, if Laurie lets anybody play in the Sevens, it means that he doesn't want them for the World Cup. That really gutted Jonah, because he thought Laurie had been unfaithful to him and told him lies. And Laurie hadn't. Laurie'd been straight all along the line. But Jonah took it as rejection again, that the only reason he's in the Sevens is he ain't wanted for the 15.
We wanted Jonah for two reasons to work under Gordon Titchens. One, he would get him an awful lot fitter, because Sevens is a game that Jonah loved. He's handling the ball a lot, so he's going to work a lot harder at it. And two, Gordon was also a very, very good skills coach.
What we saw he did in 95, he single-handedly just won me the tournament in 95, incredible. But again, Jonah at trainings never ever gave in. He mightn't have been up to where the other guys were, but he never gave in. And I didn't know then, probably then, and no one did, how sick Jonah really was. So that even when you think about that, it's certainly, for someone, certainly a lot of courage. Because I pushed my players mentally and physically very, very hard, and Jonah never once ever backed down.
I did go to the World Cup in 95 and I knew that I was sick. And then I had to confirm it to the rest of the world in 96 that I was. You know, I was hoping that, it would get better, but it never did. But, I would never change anything. It's made me me, and it's made me a better me too.
The key thing for me was that I didn't want my doctors telling the coaches, because one of two things could happen, is that the coach goes, oh, well, if he's sick, then we don't want him in the team. Because the last thing we want is him being a hindrance on the boys. And also, I wanted to make the team on my merits. Not because of they feel sorry for me or anything like that. So, I had to make sacrifices, huge sacrifices. I wanted it to be my number. I wanted to be
the best number 11 that could be.
When they came to South Africa in 1995, there was this young kid that nobody really knew how good he was, but everybody heard that this is this very special athlete that's coming with New Zealand to the World Cup.
Jonah Lomu 94, Jonah Lomu 95, il est complètement différent. Je pense que l'éviction qu'il a eue de 94 l'a rendu encore plus fort.
He emerged as an incredible player on a world stage, and I think everyone will remember that 1995 World Cup as the launching pad for what we now talk about as the Jonah Lomu effect.
He was on the scene, he was playing rugby at exactly the right time for Jonah Lomu.
Jonah est arrivé au moment où le rugby devenait professionnel. Il est arrivé à un moment où on a commencé à parler d'argent dans le monde du rugby avec son côté professionnel, donc à la fois la médiatisation nécessaire.
People remember that World Cup for Nelson Mandela and Springboks winning, but from a rugby perspective, Jonah Lomu put rugby on the world map. Yeah, there was people in the USA talking about Jonah Lomu.
He was on all the front pages of most of the papers around the world. He had offers coming in from anywhere, from the NFL, from Rugby League, which was creating interest in our game.
Ça a été la première star professionnelle de notre jeu à un moment où le rugby avait besoin de reconnaissance médiatique et de reconnaissance, je dirais pas commerciale, mais de reconnaissance des partenaires économiques qui allait venir progressivement dans le monde du rugby. Donc cette conjonction entre le moment où le rugby devient professionnel et la façon dont Jonah Lomu s'inscrit dans cet univers-là collait parfaitement à la façon d'aborder le jeu de demain.
When Jonah Lomu left South Africa, he did things on the rugby field that nobody has done before. He was a legend.
Kicked away to Lomu! Well, what can you say really with the ball in hand? He's just unstoppable, isn't he? He is unstoppable. They've gathered again. I don't believe this. He's got it up the Kronfeld. That is stunning.
When I ran out onto the field, I always thought to myself I was the best player in my position. And whoever was coming up against me, didn't matter who they were, didn't care where they came from and so forth. I was going to dominate, whether if it was with speed, and if they matched me for that, then they had to deal with me physically. And that was the one thing that I had that a lot of other players didn't have, was that I could play the two games. I could play the speed game, and I could also play the physical game.
He did things on the rugby field that no other person could do before then. And ever since, there's no one who's been able to do that same thing either. So, yeah, not just as a winger, I think it's just as a rugby player, full stop, he was out of the ordinary.
Took him down, they didn't hold him, and they go to the corner now, and there's where Kronfeld joins and rips it away and scores the try.
He's basically a lock, 6'4", playing on the wing, doing sub 11 second hundreds. That's just unheard of. And then also to be that size and that nimble, stepping and scything and all the great things of a winger, and then having that massive mitt that just to palm people away.
We knew he was an exceptional player. We thought we could tackle him, but until you came up against him on the pitch, you suddenly realised that this guy was very, very special.
He had an ability to step out of a tackle. If you could not get him, he would step out and keep going. And, he must have been fantastic to play with because, in that World Cup, he was so much bigger and stronger and faster than anyone. And that gave the New Zealand team, obviously, a huge advantage.
And the All Blacks played to him. They used him an awful lot. He got a try against us in the first few minutes.
New Zealand on the charge, and Jonah Lomu with another chance here. Lomu goes round Craig Joyner, and the big man has scored. Whenever this man gets the ball, there's so much danger. He scores his third try for New Zealand.
I remember after we lost to New Zealand, and I finished playing rugby, retired, and I met the Underwood boys in the airport the next day, and they came over and they said, "Oh, bad luck," and he said, "What's he like?" And obviously we knew who he was talking about, and
I just said, oh, well, you'll be fine, no problem, and just be strong and all this. And I remember the following week in Newlands in Cape Town, and I was sitting with my wife watching the game and just laughing.
Il y avait quelques commentaires qui se faisaient, même Underwood, le jeune frère de Rory, qui avait dit oui, mais Jonah Lomu, il n'a joué que contre des ailiers qui n'étaient pas vraiment d'envergure. Et donc on verra bien quand il rencontrera de véritables ailiers.
And I suspect some of the comments that my brother said about Jonah, which from my understanding, having spoken to him, was done in the most respectful way, but of course depends how it's written and how it's taken, obviously galvanised not only the Kiwis, but obviously Jonah. And so he came out with a point to prove.
I remember sitting in the team meeting on the Friday night before we played them, and Jack Ryle asked the question, right, how are we going to contain Jonah Lomu? And I think he asked Tony Underwood the question, and Tony Underwood said, well, I'm going to get in his face, I'm going to make sure I just get in his face all day and grab hold of him, and then 2 or 3 guys can come in and stop him.
And I remember the night before the game here, it was Sean Fitzpatrick's meeting. We're all sort of like all in a semicircle. Laurie Mains just walked in, and he just wants to see the colour of your eyes. See the colour of your eyes here. Looked around, and he said, he just basically said, "Good luck." Walked out. Sean Fitzpatrick sort of took over. He said, "Look, I just want to, it's a big game for us. Semi-final, playing England." There's only a couple of little words, and he went around to Jonah and said, "Jonah, how do you feel? How do you feel at the moment? Is there anything you would like to say?" And Jonah just turned around and he just says, "Guys, I'm prepared to die in the black jersey tomorrow." And the whole room went like this, just like that, absolute silence, and he went, and that was it. And I went, bloody hell. And that just made my hair swell like this, and you sort of think, you could bottle that adrenaline, that rush in that room there. You're like, right, you were just so pumped up for that game there. And I just said, and there was nothing else. So we just sat there for about 2 or 3 minutes, and we just looked around the room here, just absolute silence. You couldn't hear a pin drop.
Sean Fitzpatrick ready to bring the All Blacks onto the field. The big question is, are New Zealand able to beat Will Carling's English side today? Carling brings out the England team for the 52nd time.
The thing is, they want me to play the fast game, because play the physical game with me, you ain't gonna beat me. And that's one thing I loved, was the physical contact. And 9 times out of 10, I will dominate you physically. I knew that from the beginning, and the thing is, I always felt that they had to feel me physically first before they had to deal with the speed side. And you're playing this mental game with them.
Once again, Basham has it for the 4th time. Pass out to Lomu. Underwood can't take. This is the big man.
Tony Underwood steps in conveniently, ball goes over the top, bounces into Jonah's hand. Jonah then takes the outside break. Will Carling coming across, and Will Carling then ankle taps him. So now, as a number 15, as a fullback, as we all know love our rugby, is if a 15 has to make a tackle, that means 14 other people have missed that person to make the tackle. So therefore he's run through 14 other blokes to get to me as a 15. But I remember him stumbling towards me, so has Carling's. And then the next thing I remember is thinking, right, he's going at that angle at 18 stone, and I'm at that angle at 13 stone. I'm thinking, yeah, there's going to be a bit of a train smash here. And so I thought to myself, right, what do my teachers teach me to go low, take his ankles out, drive through the tackle. And the next thing I remember is lying on my back and turning to the right. And Jonah was putting the ball down.
The 3rd time, going straight over the top of Michael Catt. Well, how do you stop a man like that?
I then got So I looked back up and there was Robin Brooke tapping me on the face saying, mate, there's a bit more of that to come. So that was my initiation to Jonah Lomu, really.
Well, when he scored that try, if you notice, I'm going like this. And it's not because I'm cheering, it's because I'm saying, never pass me the bloody ball. I keep telling them, they had a show called This Is Your Life not long ago. And I said to them, if Jonah had to pass that ball into me, it would be me doing it. This is your life, Glenn Osborne.
The game carries on. Zinza and Brooke, huge pass on the outside to Osborne. This is Lomu again. Lomu is through. Well, Rob Andrew was brushed aside by the big man.
My first touch of the ball, didn't look at anyone else, just my opposite number, and run straight into him so he can feel how heavy I was, how strong I was. Then come back out, go at him again, come back, and then the third time, run straight at him, and then just step to the left and go on the outside. And then, and then they go, okay, what the hell am I going to deal with now? Is he going to come straight at me? Is he going to run around me? So it's that mind game that you play. So you keep this going, and by the time you finish, the person's going, oh man, I don't want to be here.
You try and play in the semi-final of the World Cup to qualify for the final, and you try and do that, and in 20 minutes, you see it all blown away.
And that was when we started talking about this athlete. I mean, everybody saw the tries that he scored. That was the first time people, okay, now what do we do?
Before the 1995 Rugby World Cup final, not everybody, but all the black people, 98% of the black people, whenever the All Blacks come to South Africa, they support the All Blacks. And here, Jonah Lomu is a black guy, also playing for the All Blacks on the left wing, playing in a final against the Springboks.
We're both Polynesian, and we were both selected for the All Blacks at a similar age. I was selected at the age of 19 in 1970. I was one of the first players with dark blood to be allowed into South Africa during the apartheid regime. We had a lot of support, particularly from the coloured community, and so at airports and at hotels, we were mobbed like the current players are. So that was quite special, and Jonah, when he came along, I think very similar.
It changed at a time when we got back in the final. Nelson Mandela asked the whole country to support the Springboks. They were obviously behind us as a Springbok team, but whenever Lomu will have the ball, they probably were supporting Lomu as an individual for the All Blacks, but not the All Black team.
The South African mindset is an interesting mindset. Everybody wanted to tackle Jonah Lomu. Everybody wanted to be the first guy to smash him and try and bring him down. That's just the South African mindset. In the changing room before the game, it was to calm the players down because the guys were incredibly excited. They wanted to go out, and we had to make sure that the guys were very calm.
The best memory for me was when Nelson Mandela walked into that change room just before the Rugby World Cup final, when he came and surprised us as a team and tell us, to wish us luck and wish us all the best, give us all the best wishes for the game. And once he have left, no one spoke. Everybody's quiet. Even the coach said, "You got nothing to say anymore, because if you're not motivated by now, your president walk into the change room with a rugby jersey and a rugby cap. What else can motivate you at the time?" And it was just amazing. I can get goosebumps as I sit there. That he was a great inspiration for us, but we still had to go out and stop Jonah Lomu.
The Nelson Mandela thing is huge, because it doesn't matter how many times you meet the person, never changes. The feeling that you're meeting a fantastic man, a great man.
Mr. Mandela will always be incredibly friendly. He would ask normally, how are you and how are you feeling? And because what Jonah Lomu was on the front pages of every newspaper, it was natural.
And when he turned around and you could see the number 6 on the back of his shirt, and you're going, oh, hell. And when you're talking about him playing a mental game with somebody, man, South Africa did the perfect mental game, bringing someone out like that.
And when the All Blacks did the haka, Jonah Lomu was getting closer and closer to James Small. You know, he was really excited. And what happened is Kobus Visser, our lock, he sort of broke away and he went to stand in front of Jonah Lomu as if to say, you've got to run over me first before you get to James. And that epitomized the team spirit in the South African team.
Good jump from Ian Jones, beautifully taken by the New Zealander. And Lomu straight through the middle, breaks one tackle. The pass.
James Small did a fantastic job cutting Jonah off to come inside. You know, if Jonah got space, he's so quick, he's so strong, he's so angry, it's very difficult to stop him. But if you can get him into traffic, you know, that was always the idea. So what was going through my mind when Joel Stransky dropped the goal? There was still 4 minutes left. So what was going through my mind is catch the restart, make sure we get into their half, make sure we keep them calm, because a guy like Jonah Lomu can score a try from inside his 22. So the whole thought process for me as a captain was, okay guys, we need to catch a restart. We need to consolidate, we need to get into their half, we need to start playing again. Because it's never over until the final whistle blows, then it's over.
Back it comes to use Van der Westhuizen. Little knock forward, but that's it. South Africa have won the World Cup, having been back in international rugby for less than 3 years and having not taken part in the first two.
It hurts losing that game, but to see how World Rugby brought a country together. A man like Nelson Mandela and also Francois Pienaar, you know, the combined of the Springboks and the nation because of what the Springboks stood for before and what it stands for now. Watching the vehicle of the Springboks now growing that nation, showing that pride has changed a whole lot of things, and it's fantastic to see. And where rugby has grown from 95 to what it is now is fantastic.
Of course we understood the politics in South Africa. Of course we understood what it would mean to do well for the country. We never in our wildest dreams, never ever, could have imagined the effect that rugby had on South Africa.
You know, when you first come out in 95, you know, I was about 12, and you know, you come into the rugby scene and played in the World Cup, South Africa. You know, there was this big brown Polynesian guy, you know, on the wing, and that kind of, you know, inspired most of us, you know, kids. It certainly inspired myself. You know, here Jonah was, you know, throwing off tacklers and, you know, running a menace on the field, you know, and it brought a lot of joy to probably mostly Pacific Island kids and rugby players and mainly more or less Kiwis, I think.
I think that, all Polynesian boys are very, very humble at making it into the All Blacks, and they're very shy, shy race. And Jonah's no exception, and saying, he was a very humble person, and just making it into the All Blacks, it's a huge achievement for a young boy, from where he come from. And if I look back to the era that I played in, I think one of the iconic players that I looked up to was Brian Williams.
The thing that characterises Jonah is that he's a very modest man. He was always very respectful, and he never put himself on a pedestal. He was a worldwide star when I coached him, but he was always such a pleasant guy, pleasant player to deal with. So he's a very special person as well as a special rugby player.
I think that's what I really appreciate of Jonah most, is that he, when you take away everything else, the superstar, the super athlete, the rich and famous part of who he is, what I love about Jonah is that he's always had this really soft heart.
One thing that doesn't change when you go into the changing room is your locker. When you go in there, it's always the same. Never greets you any different. But you remember what order you need to hang up your clothes, and especially when you before a game. For me, it's always that. It's that order of me doing the things that I do in an area like this is socks, shorts, shirt. And then before I run out and before I put on my All Black jersey, I put my jersey over my head, and I always turn around and I say my prayers before the game, and blessing the ground, the players, both teams, and may we making sure that both teams nobody gets injured in the game. It's not about winning, it's about just making sure that the guys are protected well out there on the field, and making sure that that we have a good, safe game, and then I get up after I said amen, put my shirt on, and then it's game on. It's time to
go. I sort of floated along. I was baptised as a Methodist, as a Christian boy, but the thing is, I never really felt I was fitting, as a lot of kids do when you come from a very religious background. Some follow that path, some stray off that path, and some fall off that path. For me, I fell off it, well off it. And then it wasn't until later on, and I started thinking more about religion. Finally came down to the Mormon faith. But I think the greatest thing is that my mother said to us was, I don't care what church you go to, it's just as long as you're still praying to God. And I found peace, harmony, and my kids, and this is the way where I believe me and my wife want to make sure that our kids grow up.
Get up, Tyler, get up! Get it back, bro!
I think he was a true professional, particularly given the popularity and the demands that were put on him by what happened in 1995. I think he handled all that very well. He never asked to be treated differently, and that's the mark of the man. because I think he always saw himself as a team man and part of a team. He did not want to be treated as anything special. We had to do certain things differently because we needed to manage him in the sense of publicity. I think his illness impacted significantly on his ability to be 100% great player all of the time. I had to nurse him 3 of the 4 years that I coached the All Blacks. I had to nurse him to get him to a fitness state where we could actually unleash him.
The condition was managed by Doc Mayhew, the All Black doctor, and he did a very good job of it. He managed it through good medication, obviously within the boundaries of the drug laws that were in existence at the time. And of course, it affected Jonah in different ways. Sometimes he put on a lot of weight when he was on taking the steroids. Of course, that was all kept confidential and was all legal. And sometimes Jonah would get a cold and it would really knock him because he didn't have the immune system that other people had.
Man, in my prime when I was playing for the All Blacks, I was the most heavily tested rugby player on the planet by a mile. I was getting drug tested here pretty much every second day. And the thing is, it got to the stage where I pretty much knew the drug testers. I was going, yeah, okay. Yeah, I had nothing to hide. They could do whatever test they wanted.
Everyone that's great has knockers. Everyone that makes it to the top will always have people who want to criticise. Unfortunately, the tall poppy syndrome is alive and well, and it's alive and well in this country. And so Jonah faced that sort of criticism because people had him on a pedestal and therefore some were trying to knock him over.
To tell the truth, those people can write whatever they like. But at the end of the day, I'm the one that has to get up in the morning and train. They don't have to do that shit. The only thing that can hurt me and the only thing that bothers me is if not doing my job correctly out on the rugby field.
So we'll let him open it. Here you go. Put it over the fireplace to scare the kids, eh?
Daddy!
Yeah, so now a couple of your good mates there, Joe. Tell us for a minute quickly about Joey and Tana. Most probably one of the best centres that ever played the game, Tana. And Joeli. I guess my good friend Joeli, he most probably the most underestimated winger ever to play the game. Unlucky with the illness to strike him. Same as me. I was fortunate that I got a couple more years on him in terms of playing. But to this day, still the fastest man I've ever seen in boots. But more than that, it's just the friendships that I had with them. It's a lot like with you guys. Thank you for coming and making this day a great day. I just want to make it more, days like this that we can all sort of get together. It doesn't matter where it is, whether if it's on the beach or stuff like that. I just want to make sure that the friends and family don't forget each other. And especially after all how long it's been. And it's great to see you all. I'm just a bit sad Dad's not here with us, but it just makes us want to cherish the days that we have with each other even more. It's been a while, but it's a long time coming, but it's great to see everyone.
A very kind man, soft, who changed dramatically when he got on the football field.
When you're playing a contact sport like rugby, what happens on the rugby field stays on the field. You pretty much have to be a Jekyll and Hyde sort of thing. The person that you're off the field is who you are. The person who are on the rugby field is a completely different person. You become this crazy loco person.
It was a powerful surge of energy and strength, but also at the same time it's learning how to harness that energy, because sometimes you can go over the top and then you forget about the game. So you made sure that you performed it the way it should be performed and the way that the Maori people would be proud of you doing it.
World Cup 99 versus England, Twickenham. I think that was, in my mind, the special moment I saw as a rugby player. This was a try where he got the ball 60 or 70 metres out. He beat people with swerve and pace. And then he had, I think, 3 or 4 Englishmen all over him as he got near the line. I think Lawrence Delagio was one. And he managed to score at the end of what I thought was special.
It takes 2 teams to make an amazing game. And France has always been our bogey team. They're always a difficult team to beat. But I guess the history between New Zealand and France is also amazing.
J'ai pas souvenir dans ma carrière d'avoir préparé un match en ayant quasi la certitude de le perdre. Parce que l'enjeu du match n'était pas savoir qui allait gagner, qui allait perdre, c'était une évidence, c'était les Blacks. Ils étaient, comme chaque fois, tu vas me dire, les grands favoris, l'arme fatale Jonah Lomu. Enfin voilà, donc il y avait évidemment des joueurs exceptionnels.
Et puis surtout, j'ai encore la chair de poule quand je vous l'ai dit, c'est les Blacks. Quand on joue les Blacks, c'est les matchs que tout rugbyman cherche. Ça change un homme de jouer contre les All Blacks.
Je crois que quand tu joues les Blacks, tu as peur. C'est une peur saine, c'est une peur déjà de prendre beaucoup de points, d'être balayé, de ne pas rivaliser physiquement. Donc tous ces paramètres-là, tu ne les maîtrises pas. Et en plus, collectivement, ils se dégageaient beaucoup de force de cette équipe-là. Et puis ils avaient un atout majeur qui était Lomu, qui pouvait faire basculer un match à n'importe quel moment quand il décidait. Et donc tous ces paramètres-là réunis font qu'on arrive, on a quand même la trouille grave.
C'est peut-être pas les meilleures nuits que j'ai passées avant un match pour préparer un match comme ça, mais malgré tout, mis à part ce côté un petit peu de crainte, de peur de rencontrer les Blacks et notamment Jonah en face à face, je crois que j'étais déjà très heureux et très fier d'être en demi-finale de Coupe du Monde.
Et puis surtout voir les journalistes, tout le monde parier sur ce match-là, etc. Quand on a des caractères, quand on est sportif de haut niveau, on n'aime pas ça, on se sent humilié.
Et par rebond, on va dire, la fierté, et en se disant, je me souviens très bien de nous dire, d'accord, on va perdre, mais on va laisser la peau sur le terrain. Hors de question de nous faire humilier, hors de question d'en prendre 40, on va laisser notre peau sur le terrain, et si possible, on va amener quelques Blacks avec nous.
il y avait un phénomène qui était différent des autres. Je dis qui était une vraie plaie, qui était une hantise, mais qui était une hantise pas que de l'ailier, qui était une hantise du numéro 1 au numéro 15. Généralement, quand on joue un joueur, on se dit bon, les gars, ton duel en pilier, c'est costaud, voilà, tu focalises pas. Là, c'est un garçon qui focalisait toute l'équipe. C'est pas rien. Jamais un ailier a focalisé un pilier au talonneur en disant attends, c'est pas mon problème là, moi je m'occupais de devant, j'ai assez à faire. Non, il focalisait tout parce que tout le monde avait compris, je dirais, l'urgence que si on n'était pas ensemble, on pouvait pas l'arrêter.
Danger here. Cullen flips on to Lomu. Lomu steps outside. Cuts inside. Still not down. He's
Tout le monde en parlait de ça. C'était le premier plaquage. Et comme souvent, où le match commence, vous voulez un petit peu faire quelque chose d'explosif pour rentrer d'abord dans le match. Le mot arrive, je fais quelque chose qui est interdit. Normalement, on n'a pas le droit d'aller à l'épaule. Je mets tout. Et forcément, alors, je ne sais pas si c'est un phénomène, j'ai même posé la question à un professeur de physique, il m'a dit, vous inquiétez pas, deux puissances qui réalisent comme ça, forcément, ils repartent du même côté. Vous êtes parti sur 10 mètres. Lui, il fait demi-tour sur place. Heureusement qu'il heurte un Français, qu'il le remet sur ses appuis. Sinon, peut-être qu'il serait tombé. Voilà, donc... Bon, bien sûr, il marque la tête. Moi, je suis sous les poteaux, un peu touché dans mon orgueil, parce que mon rugby, c'est un rugby physique.
Benazi, qui devait faire ses bons 115, 120 kilos, hein, qui arrive lancé comme un frelon et qui rebondit comme le même frelon sur un mur. J'avais dit, ça pique, si c'est moi qui dois lui sauter dessus, ça va faire drôle.
Fifi veut monter très vite en pointe, essayer de donner un coup de pied dans le ballon ou un truc comme ça, puis il le loupe, et là, il commence à se lancer. Et là, donc tu vas sans trop y aller, voilà, tu vois, et puis tu sens quand même une force, une énergie qui se déplace, tu sens une puissance, et le premier, c'est quasiment du suicide.
Rugby is about fighting to win. Not physically fighting, but yeah, being physically demanding and dominating on the opposition within your rules. And the thing is, I found it natural because growing up in South Auckland, you had to have all these attributes to grow up in that arena to be able to survive. I translated what I learnt on the street to playing on the rugby field.
On savait qu'il fallait pas qu'il ait le ballon. Il a eu 2 fois, il a marqué 2 fois.
The option back to Wilson. Back inside to Lomu. Pass 1, pass 2. Here he goes again. Bundling them off and the big man is over.
Lomu, on savait ce qu'il était susceptible de faire et capable de faire, et puis il l'avait déjà fait. Donc si tu veux, moralement, ça n'a pas trop affecté l'équipe.
They're like terriers in those rucks at the moment. Dominici, he's going to go in. Dominici scores.
Évidemment, on s'est dit, mais merde, ces mecs sont en train de gamberger, ces mecs sont en train de douter. Toi, petit à petit, un drop de Tito à droite, une pénalité, un essai, une action.
La Maison, chipped over and brilliant. Dort is there for the try.
When you play a team sport, you got to be part of a team. And the thing is, you can't be a great player without the other players. And this is the thing you got to learn about rugby, is that it's a selfless game. You have to sacrifice yourself at certain times to create something for someone else. And that's what makes a team. I've never felt that I was above any other player. The thing is, I've always felt that I was always wanted to be the best player in my position, but I never thought I was above anyone else in my team.
For us to win, we needed the whole network in our team, the whole synergy to go to win this. Because we know France, they are our bogey team, they are sensational when they play. I don't know how they do it. Do they have 20 cups of teas or 20 coffees? I have no idea. They are a great team.
Coup de sifflet final est retenti. Là, j'ai vu 5 en black s'effondrer par terre. C'est l'image qui me reste.
C'était d'un poids terrible. Comme quand on va à des enterrements, cette torpeur et cette lourdeur d'un deuil.
Avec Domi, on est parti échanger nos maillots dans les vestiaires des Blacks. Et il s'est levé, il m'a regardé comme ça. Et il m'a pris les 2 mains comme ça et il m'a congratulé pendant 30 secondes en me tenant les 2 mains, pratiquement les larmes aux yeux. Bravo Philippe, super.
For me, definitely 99 World Cup was the worst changing room memory that I could have. But the better team won on the day.
For me, the game is like life. It's a short way of living your life fast.
That's part and parcel of what rugby is. You win some, you lose some. Some are more important than the others, but as an All Black, you want to win every game.
A standard transplant operation for a kidney transplant, we place the kidney very low in the abdomen, way down the bottom of the abdominal cavity, and that's for convenience. In Jonah's case, because he's told us that he wants to potentially play rugby again, we thought that the safest place to put it was up near a native kidney, right up underneath the rib cage here, so that it'd be a lot more protected, just like a native kidney is.
It was one thing that you had to accept as a sportsman, is that you're going to lose and you're going to win sometimes. And I was very fortunate that I won more games than I'd lost.
I've always talked about giving back to the game, and my initial reason why I left was to do that, almost to help grow the game. The reason why I went to Marseille was because I wanted to see that club grow. And my time in Marseille was great. The people of Marseille were fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic.
If I look at it from a different perspective, I did the same. And I understand why I did it. Meeting people, experiencing new cultures, and as a person you grow. So I wasn't surprised when Jonah went to play in France after his career.
For me, it wasn't about leaving just because of my name and this, that, and so forth. It's just I left the country because that was an opportunity to do something different.
It's not purely for rugby reasons that you go. You love the game, and if we can play rugby until we're 100 years old, we'll keep on playing until we're 100 years old. But the body only has a certain amount of time, and the level of rugby and the physicality of rugby has gone a lot higher. So there comes a time then you have to say, I've got maybe a year, 2 years left in my knees. I want to go and experience something else.
And I think this is where some people will judge the different parts of his career, whether his comeback was a success or a failure. At the end of the day, you can only judge it by what he set out to do. And he set out to play rugby again, and he set out to have an impact again. As far as I'm concerned, that's a success.
The problem is that I don't think we ever saw the ultimate Jonah. Had we seen the ultimate Jonah, in other words, without illness, without injury to the extent that he was restricted, I think you would have been talking about Jonah in the Roger Federer, Usain Bolt, name the great sportsmen of this world. And I'm sure he would have been one of those names. He's not probably seen that way, particularly here in New Zealand, because probably people saw the weaknesses or the problems that he had in playing the game at times, which now, of course, can be attributed to his illnesses. I think those in Europe would revere him probably more than he's revered in New Zealand. To me, that is a great personal disappointment, because whenever I go overseas, particularly in the times I was around the All Blacks or beyond it, his name was worldwide. I think New Zealand rugby did itself a disservice and the game a disservice by not championing him after he finished playing the game. I think he should have been someone we used as a great role model for the game, and it's tragic that that didn't happen. So, in my eyes, one of the top players that I ever saw. Was he the best? No, because I don't think we saw the best of him.
With sevens, we'll be able to have more countries enter and be able to compete. It becomes a level playing field for a lot of teams. The 15-man game is always going to be there, but I think the new future of rugby is held in sevens.
Vous savez, quand on a une ligne, une tribune devant l'ensemble de l'Assemblée Générale du CIO, vous avez 120 personnes dans la salle, tout le monde vous écoute, on délivre un message, mais tout le monde attend la présence de celui qui est derrière moi et qui attend le moment de pouvoir exprimer un message, qui est Jonah Lomu. Le fait de l'avoir avec moi, de conduire l'équipe et de pouvoir amener ce lien extraordinaire entre l'histoire de notre jeu et son actualité avec la campagne olympique, c'est un apport extraordinaire.
Yes, 81.
When you're writing in your journal and you're leaving things behind for your kids, what has Dad done? Because I'm pretty sure when the boys get a little bit older, they'll get asked, what have you done, Dad? I could turn to them and go, hey, I helped rugby to get into the Olympic Games. There's not many people that can say that.
He is arguably the most famous rugby player in the world and made his name at the World Cup.
The most recent moment for me that I've been extremely proud of Jonah and to see him was to be part of the opening ceremony of the Rugby World Cup. I think it was great for him, the beginning of it, for those people that did see it, with Ethan that had a number 11 shirt on and how he was fending off everybody. It was a fantastic tribute to Jonah, and just the emotion that was inside of me that I felt, and I had the two boys with me and we watched Jonah. It was just a fantastic experience that, it's hard to explain how I really felt, but that kind of summed up, and it showed obviously he had to be a special person to be able to be a part of that.
How's the family, man? You got
two boys just over there.
Are they your lot?
Yeah.
What class are they?
All good though.
Good.
Young one. Oh, that one up the front over there. He
all go, eh?
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
It's like fall over, hit his head, get up, still go.
And that's your missus there?
Yeah, in the blue. Yeah, I'll introduce you, bro.
Oh, sweet.
Josh.
Nadine.
Hi.
Hello, Nadine. Lovely to meet you.
You too.
And that's Brayley.
Hello, Brayley.
Raoul, come here.
They're pretty cool to jump off, aren't they?
And that's Raoul over there.
Wow.
Old troublemaker. That's my mother-in-law. That's Lois.
My whole life, you know, I was tested for, you know, if I could have kids. And the chances were 0.001.
Jonah had always told me and explained to me, you know, with his medication and things like that, that the chances, the percentage was just very slim of being able to have children. So it just took us by surprise.
So I've been blessed with 2 kids, 2 boys, 2 fantastic, big, beautiful boys.
You know what? If I died tomorrow, I'd be an unhappy man in some ways, but also a happy man because I have 2 great sons and a lovely wife. And that is also why it's bittersweet for me if that happened. It would be bitter because, you know, I've left them so early, but in terms of leaving something behind for my kids and my wife, in terms of what they can remember me of and what I've done, you know, I'll be handing it to them. I want them to grow up and have a life not as hard as I grew up, but leave for people and say that at the end of the game, life was the winner, because your rugby career is only a short term, but your life is longer than that, and how you live it is still in the spirit of rugby.